Hello and happy Monday, Never Ending Referrals community. We are so excited, as always, to be joining all of you today, starting the week off right. And Steve and I have got some great conversations ahead, both over the next 30 minutes as well as when we get into session 7. And today we decided, versus having someone here to interview, we wanted to stop for a moment and really talk about what is happening in all of the markets, because all of the markets are very different. And yet we are starting to see the trends and the changes that indicate that things are changing. Things are switching up from market to market. We're seeing price reductions that we haven't seen in probably 2 years. And some of the inventory levels are starting to tick up. And so today we thought we would talk about pricing. Pricing is so incredibly critical in a market that is changing, or at least is plateauing out. And those conversations that we have are so incredibly important, Steve, because every one of those listing appointments matters. Right now, if we list to last and we know that we're short on inventory, we've got to convert at the highest level and get them priced right, so that we don't have to go back and have the price reduction conversation or the price correction, if you will. So we'd love to hear from all of you. Why don't you take a moment, if you would, and throw in the chat. Let us know, what are you seeing start to begin happening in your market? Are you seeing any changes at all? Maybe you're not seeing anything. What is happening in the market near you? And then Steve, let's jump in. Let's talk about, pricing and how incredibly important that is as we move into a shifted space.
Yeah, and Tammy, I think the new appropriate way is price improvement.
It is improvement.
Calling it now. So whatever you call it, right? There's a lot of that going on. And in fact, one of the things that we're going to really encourage you to do is begin to monitor. How do I really watch the leading indicators of what's going on in the market? How do I catch it early and spot trends? And in fact, Tammy, I'm going to go to my document camera for a minute, and I want to share something with you folks that I pulled from, let's see if I can get this up here. Okay. And let me spotlight me here. Let's see if we can make sure. So this was pulled actually last Wednesday. I didn't update it today, but last Wednesday, we looked at 7 days back and we said, okay, what's the trend in our market in San Antonio? And Tammy, 962 new listings. We had 693, let's call them price improvements. We had 887 transactions go pending and just over 1,000 closed. It won't tell you how many exactly, it was just over 1,000. And so it's interesting when you interpret this data, what does it say? I mean, Tammy, when you see this and you see 692 new listings, 693 price changes, and 887 pending, what is it telling you about my market?
Things are starting to change or correct. It really depends on how we look at it. However, things are changing. You're finally starting to see more listings than you are things that are going under contract, and you're seeing those price adjustments or improvements, if you will, that are helping push the pending. So it's not so much, pie in the sky, everything goes under contract, and it's a good story to tell.
Yeah. Well, and so you look at this, and so we netted 75 additional listings to inventory versus what was taken down. Now, for a week, that's not a lot, especially when 887 are going pending in, a given 7-day period. It's less than 10% of the rate of going pending. And, our months of inventory have gone from a little like 1.2, 1.3 to like 2 months. And so it's still extremely low. And yet the thing to watch is the trend, because the other trend is 693 listings were told by the market, whoa, not doing that. We're not doing that. We won't pay that price. And so they're having to bring the house to market. And it doesn't mean that prices are coming down. It means listing prices were probably quite overinflated. Sure, at the end of the year, we're going to have net increase in values. And yet not at the level we had before. So when I think about that, Tammy, these are the numbers that I would watch. In fact, every 7 days, I would probably want to put this into a spreadsheet and what can I conclude from this, and be sure that I'm watching the trends as we go through the months ahead. And price improvements are leading indicators of the market not going south, but maybe going soft and trending towards less competition or less fervor. And yet it's still a very strong market in my market. In fact, one of the agents in our office put it this way. I'm going to share a Facebook post with you guys, and you guys might want to screenshot this or go back and take it on later and adapt it for your market. Oops, let's get, somebody's communicating with me there. Let's walk through this. And Zach Castillo, the Castillo Group in San Antonio, posted this, and I thought it was really, really cool. And Tammy, I share this because I challenge you to think about, what is your 75-second elevator speech about the status of your market? Because you're going to have international fodder, you're going to have national fodder, you're going to have the news saying, prices are coming down, or, inventories are going up, and national versus local is a whole different thing. Mm-hmm. And so here's what Zach did. He said, if the speed limit is 65 and you're going 135, it's insane. You see a cop ahead and immediately take your foot off the gas, passing the cop at 97. Woo, lights come on, you pull over. Cop asks if you know why you got pulled over, and you just decide, I'm going to be honest. Officer, I apologize. I was going extremely fast. I was the only car on the road, and this is a limited edition sports car, and I just kept going faster and faster. There was nothing to keep me from going fast. I saw you well ahead, and I attempted to slow down safely. I wasn't out of control. I knew what I was doing, and feel your leniency would be fair. The cop thinks about your story and appreciates your honesty, and he goes to the patrol car, runs your plates and your license, and comes back with a citation. I appreciate your honesty. You do have a great car, and you did have no one else on the road, and you clearly know how to drive. I'm going to write you up for going 97 and a 65. You may not have been going 135 when I saw you, but 97 is still extreme speeding. Well, then he transitions it to the housing market. See, people, this is the housing market in 2022. You were the only home on the market for a while, so you were able to do things that are not normal. The market may have slowed a bit, but it's still hot. Is it white hot, 135 miles per hour? No. Was it still very hot, 97 in a 65 zone? Yes. There is more traffic on the road, and traffic might be defined as inventory, interest rates, et cetera. But the market is still moving like crazy. Now, don't let the negative news fool you. Don't think big numbers sound scary. We look at the real numbers constantly. People will tell you that inventories levels are up 30% since the beginning of the year. And this is true. In Bexar County, we're sitting with 2 months of inventory instead of just over 1 month. It's about a 30% increase. Yes. Is it still remarkably low? Yes. And by the way, sales volume is currently flat to slightly lower. Prices have been rising. Will this stay the same forever? No, we may go from white hot 135 to very hot 97 to just hot 85. But it's still fast and still strong. Are you going to make a 20% increase on the purchase this year and every year? No. But that should never be the plan. Real estate's not for day trading, never was supposed to be. Real estate's a great investment that is a good inflation hedge and performs well even during a recession. Focus on you, not the news. What are your needs? What are your goals? If you're adding to your portfolio by buying or selling a property to buy another or multiple, remember that in 20 years, all your decisions will look like gold. What do we know? We just do this every single day for ourselves and for our clients. We wouldn't have repeat clients doing multiple transactions with us for years and years if we weren't looking out for their entire real estate visions. Now, that's what it goes. Now is not the time to hire just anyone. Now is the time, the right time to make sure that the consultant, the analyst, the portfolio advisor you hire is looking out for your best interest. Anyone can sell anything when it's the only thing for sale. The cream of the crop knows how to help you succeed in every market.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Way to go, Zach.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, how brilliant is that? And so, you know, when you look at that and really think about the context in which Zach put this, it's really telling. And I encourage you, this is the thing we have to do, you know, ourselves is get really clear. What's your messaging around the market and around the market at the moment? And Tammy, you know, I think that there are a lot of markets that, you know, are going to start to see more of the flip, like we're seeing here, slightly more listings coming on, you know, than is going pending, and start to see just a gradual increase. And remember, until we hit about 5 or 6 months supply, we're not even in a balanced market yet. And you know, and you know, my concern is even if we go there, that you know, builders pull back, developers pull back a little bit as we go into recession. One of the things I might have into my dialogue is they always say, what about a recession? Well, you know, we may see a brief lull. We may see a recession. And my fear is that builders and developers may pull back from projects that they might have on the books or slated. And, you know, if that's the case, as soon as we come out of recession, they'll still be finishing up the projects they had, but then we're going to be right back into this position again of extremely low inventory because new developments weren't coming on the books. So really, we are going to be in some kind of low inventory environment, you know, probably for many years to come in my markets. So Austin, San Antonio, and so on. So that being said, Tammy, let's pause there for a minute. Give me some thoughts around, you know, what we just discussed.
Well, you know, several things. You know, when you and I were speaking earlier, and I pulled the stats in our market, they're very different, right, than your market. And if you were to look at mine and compare to what you just put up on the screen, you know, our inventory has gone from 0.2 months inventory to 0.8. We don't even have 1 month of inventory. And so as an agent, I might not feel that. If I'm not watching the trend, which is what you're talking about, I'm not going to realize that it's creeping up ever so slightly and that those changes are happening. And the best time for us to have conversations with absolutely anyone about selling or buying is when these changes are occurring, because it's opportunity for both sides. Yeah. And that's what's so important about what we're talking about.
Well, you think about Zach posting that and then, you know, communicating that into, you know, his marketing, those types of messages. And now the interesting phone call that you have when you're doing your DTD2 is like, hey, you might have seen some of my posts about the real estate market. And, you know, things certainly are changing. There's a lot in the media a little bit. And, you know, and because there are changes going on, not necessarily bad changes, some really good changes, you know, I thought I'd check in with you to see if you had any real estate plans or need any real estate guidance, you know, that I could help with right now. You know, do you guys have any plans for this year with regard to real estate? And then just keep it quiet and wait, you know, see how they respond. And like I said, you're going to get 1 of 3 answers. Either, yes, we do have plans in real estate, or no, we don't have any plans. We're happy as a clam. Or they're going to say, well, tell me a little bit more about, you know, what's going on. I mean, what are the best moves right now, or what might be some of the opportunities? And you have a dialogue. And so it doesn't matter the answer, but the question is important. I mean, if the stock market doing the crazy things it's doing, if I had a financial advisor, I would want to be hearing from them right now. You're no different. You know, I've been trying to make a decision here of whether I should unload my oil stocks right now. Is there really much upside? And depending on the market, I may do that today. But you have to really, and I'm my own guide on that. I really could use a guide on that right now to maybe help me make some of those decisions. So I'm going to have to go to my investment newsletters and some of this and examine it and make my own best decision through counsel that way, so that I'm informed. So let's go talk about buyers and sellers today and listing appointments. And one of the things that you've probably experienced before, is I've got a strategy around pricing called the Intelligent Seller's Guide to Pricing. And Tammy, I think this little tool, I created it in a market where the market was shifting down dramatically. And I used it to explain what impacted price and the hazards of chasing a market down. And then we actually learned how to use it in an escalating market too. And we showed y'all that, I guess, early 2021, we went through that. We're going to go through it again. And as we're looking at a shift, maybe how we explain pricing strategy a little different. Now, what I'm going to walk you through, I would do this on a legal pad. I wouldn't have a PowerPoint walking them through pricing strategy, because that feels like selling. What we want to do is educate our buyers and sellers about what impacts price, what's impacting the market, and what are good decisions. And so when we think about this, if I were sitting down with a seller at a listing appointment and they were really confused, they really wanted to price it really high, and we'd gone through all the comps. And by the way, we flipped through a lot of pictures on the comps, because I tell you what, pictures worth 1,000 words, folks. And if you take and say, here are the things that are on the market that compare to yours, or here's what most recently sold, and you flip through those pictures on an iPad, they're comparing and they'll make a good judgment about how they compare. If you don't give them a lot of information, they're going to generally push high if they don't have a good comparison. But let's go through. I'm going to put my document camera back on, and let's go here. And let me spotlight that. All right. So we call this the Intelligent Seller's Guide to Pricing. And as we dive into this, let's come from the perspective that there are 3 prices for every home. And so what would happen is I've gone through the comps and they're going, well, but we don't, the market's been really good. We want to wring everything we can out of the market. And if I feel like they're just, I may not need to use this, but if I'm feeling like I need to explain and help them understand the dynamics of pricing, I'll pull out a sheet of paper and I'll draw these lines like you see right here. And I'll say, now, Mr. and Ms. Seller, there's 3 prices for every home. There's market price. That's willing buyer, willing seller, today's market. What's the market currently bearing for a home like yours? And then there's what we would call premium. That's where all the conditions are right. And, you get top dollar. And then there's what we call wholesale. And wholesale would be, hey, you want an all cash, no showings, no hassle, get it done right now. What'll somebody pay you? And so that being said, we're going to determine the best price for you. But let me share with you the things that influence where we decide to price it. Now, anybody put in the chat, anybody have an idea? Remember what this is on this side, what we're going to put down? Probably not. I'm just going to go ahead and write it down. We're going to put trend. So the trend, and we could put inventory as well. And so trend might be, is it trending to up here, which is a seller's market? Or is it trending down here to a buyer's market? By the way, a buyer's market be defined of, to 6+ months of inventory. Okay, you got that? And then so that's going to influence, the trend is going to influence pricing as well. But on the other side, there's some other considerations. And some other considerations might be, I'm going to write the word here, condition. And another one might be motivation and time, meaning they've got all the time in the world or they need to be sold tomorrow. And so that would kind of play into this. And so what we might say on the condition, we might say staged model home condition. Or we're down here, we're going to put neglect, deferred maintenance, would be on the other end of the spectrum right here. So I sat down and so Tammy and I are going through and I'm having a listing consultation with her. And we determined that based upon, the market right now, what things have been selling for, that a good market price for her property is $360,000. And so 360,000 is market. And I tell Tammy, I said, Tammy, I can, we can get you out of here really fast, not go on the market, wholesale price it, probably get you out of here 335, all cash, have an offer in your hand in 48 hours without putting it on the market, doing any fix up, doing anything, because it's really basically an okay condition. And then premium, we might say, okay, well, let's say that, 7-8% above market, let's just say that maybe 396 to 400 would be premium. Now, what I'm going to want to do is any numbers that I put here, anywhere in this range needs to be numbers that I'm willing to list it at. And I'm going to look for the justifications that would allow for this range. And now I might even say to a seller today, the market we've just come out of had another pricing strata, and it was called premium plus or insanity. This is where people were offering 100,000 over list, and we're not seeing that so much anymore. We are seeing the best properties get multiple offers and go over list price, and we are seeing many properties get one quality offer, within the market range. So, Mr. and Ms. Seller, what we've got to really decide today is based upon the things that we've looked at and the comparison data, knowing that this is kind of the range for you, we've got to decide what's the best price for your home to be competitive in today's market. Now, before we make that decision though, let's talk about the trend of the market. And what are you hearing about the trends in the market? What are you hearing on the media? Tammy, what might they say?
That things are still going up.
Well, things are still going up. Okay. What else might they hear?
That people can't get a house.
Okay. You might hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And because there's nothing to buy.
And that has been a lot of what people have experienced up until recently. We are seeing a pronounced trend shift in the market. Let me explain what I mean. Last week, we had 693 properties where the market said, whoa, and they did a price improvement. They brought their price down. And then we had 962 listings come on the market and 887 go under contract. Now, this is a new trend that we're now seeing more homes coming on the market that are going under contract. And it's reflected in the fact that now we're seeing a lot of our listings only get one offer. Now, the best ones that on this side are staged, model, perfect, and they've got everything going, there's very little competition in maybe their price range or area. Those are still getting multiple offers, but instead of 10 or 12, it's maybe 2 to 4. And so it's still a good thing. So, but here's what I want to say: probably the premium plus insanity, having us put it at a price that's already high and then having it bid up another $50,000, $60,000 or $40,000. That's probably the window on that is probably closed for most properties. And what we're seeing is the trend right now is moving this direction. And it's not moving to a buyer's market. It's just moving more towards the middle. It's moving more towards the middle. And the challenge is sometimes when things start to roll, if something is a trigger in the economy or something gets really a little off the rails, this could accelerate very fast. And we're not going to go back here anytime soon. We don't have enough inventory to get back to a buyer's market, but we could really move back to the middle. And my concern is making sure we pick a price that suits your timing and motivation to get to Kalamazoo and get you there when you want to be there. So based upon the trend, everything we've looked at as far as the comparisons, what feels like a competitive price for you? And by the way, keep in mind that if we price it right at market, it's hard to overprice, because if it's deemed a great value, we'll get multiple offers and it'll be bid up. But we could overprice and really have the market say no, and then we got to address a price adjustment down the road. So Tammy, chime in on this right here.
Well, I was just putting in the chat that I learned this from you through the last shift. Mm-hmm. And it's, here we are dusting it off and getting it back out, and it works. It's a very logical conversation, and it's visual. So, people are so many really operate from a visual standpoint, and you walk them through like how you're thinking, and you're teaching them to think. And the majority of the time, and not always, we always have those sellers that they hear you and they don't want to listen. The majority of the time, though, people can, you can't argue with logic and that you're just interpreting what's happening. Mm-hmm. And you can end up with a very well-priced listing. Yeah.
And in most time, with this conversation, provided the motivation is strong, they'll put it right in here. Mm-hmm. And I might even say some really smart sellers, they put it right at market, maybe a little below in case the market really starts doing anything weird, because they want to be one of the next ones to attract an offer. And if it's perceived such a good value, you may be one of those that still gets multiple offers, quickly, and it does push up. Here's the other thing about this conversation, because this could come up in your conversations. You have somebody that says, let's still go ahead and price it up here because I've got all the time in the world. We're not really in a hurry. And I would say, well, normally that would be in your favor. And yet, because, it's in great condition and you have all the time. And yet, if the trend is moving this way, if it keeps moving this way, every month you wait, could be pushing down. And here's now, if things get extreme, we don't expect them to, but if things get extreme, what happens? You know what that line is? That's future premium. Which, by the way, makes this what?
The market.
Future market. And then, we start up here and you go, maybe Steve was right. And so you go now and you finally price it a little lower, and you may just be in for the chase of your life, because all you did was go from, premium to future premium, and you really didn't gain any ground on the market, and it becomes a horrible chase. And by the way, that is a real thing that we have seen as the pendulum has swung to seller markets. Not anticipating this in most of our markets. Some may know how to have a conversation. I think it's a vital, critical conversation. And again, only pull it out if you need to educate somebody. And do it this way. Just draw it out on a piece of paper and be a good guide, be a good consultant. So let's, Tammy's got some advice in the chat for you. There's some great graphs that kind of
Mhm.
work along with this
Oh,
from
yeah.
the Shift book. Talk about that, Timmy.
Yeah, well, it will walk you through that conversation, and those graphs are a great thing to have in your presentation folder, so that when you sit with someone who really struggles with listening to your advice, you can literally walk through this and then show them the graphs, and it will walk them through the consequences of overpricing and chasing a market that is trending to lower itself. So really, really great conversations that come from that whole chapter.
Yeah. Melanie, thank you for the question. It says, very much appreciate the dialogue regarding seller discussion. How do I set the expectations for buyers who are hearing all the dialogue in the media, who are now expecting to find a deal and offer well below asking price? And this is where I think tracking that 7-day average, those numbers every week, and to say, here, I track this. And the guide is 6 months of inventory, 5 to 6 months is a balanced market. We're still at 2, or in Tammy's case, 0.8.
Yeah.
And, right now, and unless that was in a pronounced trend the other way, then, and by the way, days on supply is a lagging number. It's based upon sales the previous month, and inventories, that you currently have. And could it fall off the table and you not see it for a couple of months? And so you got to watch this really weekly. So with a buyer, I think, going back to those, numbers right there and say, we are barely gaining inventory right now. Keep a poll of, what's happening in your market center. It would be really smart right now for, as a market center, to have something that gets reported with every contract. How many offers did you have? And start, watching the offer trend in your market center. This would be a great resource for y'all to have. Start to identify trends. So with a buyer, I think the buyer conversation is this. The good thing about the market where it is right now is we are having an improvement in the amount of inventories available. Some things are now going with 1 offer, maybe 2 offers. So now we don't have the same, it's not hot lava hot. It's just Texas summer hot. And, it's still maybe record heat in spots and in certain price ranges. But now you have a better chance to actually maybe get a house that is more of what you desire. So I think you have to show and demonstrate to them clearly what these trends are, so that they know that they may still have to make full price offers. They may still be in competition. And the advantage of the current market is you have maybe just a few more choices than you had before. Maybe you don't have to compromise so much on a house because you can select from 3 instead of 1. That would be kind of my thought. Yeah.
Some things, wait a minute. Yeah.
Let's see what else we have. Renee, also in some areas, the prices are trending higher, but the home you are selling cannot compare to the CMA. So the CMA may not be telling. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions we had up here.
Yeah, and what Steve was just talking about with buyers and how that reluctance can start to show up. And I put on page 167, you go into tactic 8, and it's all about creating buyer urgency and doing exactly what Steve just shared. It's translating the market and being that local advisor and really doing such a great job at your consultation that the why behind why they're purchasing, and because you got to tap into that when the urgency starts to disappear.
Well, and I love what Zach said. In 20 years from now, everything you did is going to look brilliant.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the longer term view for you? Now, if you're wanting something to catch, to make a quick hit and earn 20% on a piece of real estate, that market's gone right now. May be back after a recession and the market heats up again. It may be. And by the way, they say, I want to wait till prices come down and interest rates come down. Keep in mind, interest rates are really at the current level is still slightly below the trend since 1990.
Yeah.
the question needs to be if real interest rates come down. They may not. 5 might be as low as you'll see for a long time. And so grabbing that now, it's still a historically very competitive rate. And if it does come down, not when, never use the when anymore, because we've gotten used to these unprecedented rates to first coming out of the Great Recession, then dealing with COVID, and it was artificial. There's nothing real in the economy that says interest rates should be that low forever. And so I think that could be a gone thing, Tammy.
Yeah. Well, I remember we danced in the street when it hit 6, right? I mean, literally, we were like, woohoo, right? And now people are crying because it's 6. I'm like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. 6 is phenomenal. Right? So,
Maurice, to what did you write under neglect? Bottom, right bottom arrow.
Deferred maintenance.
I put deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
So neglect or deferred maintenance. Yeah. Oh, Paula, first house was at 16. Mine was 13 and a half. So you got us beat there, Paula. That's not a good thing to win, but thank God those days are gone. I hope. I trust, they not come again. All right. So we're going to move on to session 7 of Never Ending Referrals. Today is about geofarming. And Timmy, I'm going to stop the recording so we can segment this real quick. Stand by.